Yep. Good evening. Yeah, good evening from here. We are now live, officially live. My name is Engineer Fortune Isaac. Okay, I'm a principal consultant and lead mechanical engineer, lead auto engineer at Auto Touch Nigeria Limited. For now, we are located in Uyo, Akwa Ibom State. Okay, we are located in Uyo, Akwa Ibom State. Welcome to this live session. I really want to talk about something that's very, very important. Very, very important. A lot of people have got their fingers burnt trying to do what I'm trying to talk about, okay, without having prior knowledge or without having something close to professional knowledge on how things should go. Okay, they people is okay. Let me bring it out. People want to buy cars, but then they really do not know much about technicalities in vehicles. They just have layman's knowledge about cars. And I mean, like I said before, a lot of people have gotten their fingers burnt trying to do this over and over again. It hasn't just happened once or twice or thrice. I know of people who have tried to buy cars on their own, inspect cars on their own, but ended up buying trash, a car that they will keep repairing from one mechanic workshop to the other until they get tired and eventually sell it off far below the amount that they had purchased it. Now, this is because probably they are looking at the wrong things. Okay, it's good to look at the entire outlook of the vehicle. Okay, it's good to look out for the beauty, the aesthetics. But beyond that, that automobile is not just a car because of how it looks. It's a car because of its functionality. So, a lot of guys also have also sent me to please help me inspect this car. Help me inspect this car. I don't know how many people are with me. Let me see. Okay. Now a lot of people will say, help me inspect this car. And this is me. I mean, I'm looking at the car dealer is there, and I just look at a few things and I shake my head, and the car dealer will be like, who are you? And I just bring out my ID and say, see who I am. He said, no wonder. Now that information that I have is what I like to pass on to you guys. Okay, it's gonna be very simple. Sorry, I'm not in the workshop. I was just at home about to sleep, and then I decided to do this all of a sudden. So, but I think I'm going to do this. Okay, forget about the pillow. I think I'm going to do this now. When you're going to buy a used car, it's a different ball game altogether. When you want to buy a brand new car, okay, from the factory, that's always coming with warranty and all that. By the time you finish determining the spec of car that you want to buy, what year of car, year of manufacture, and all that, well, that comes with warranty. But a car that has been used by some other person or two other persons or 20 other people or even 100 other people, okay, has to be inspected. If you're going to really pay money, if you're not going with that car for free, you really need to do proper inspection. Okay, and you have to do it like a pro. A car is very technical. Automobiles are very technical, no doubt about that. So, what skill sets do you need to possess to be able to purchase a car? That's what I'm going to be exposing, and I really want to expose it now. So, the first thing to look at, number one, are you there? Is somebody there? Yeah. Number one thing that you look at before buying a car is the ODO. I don't know if you have heard of ODO before. ODO, okay, is short form. I know you're wondering what it is. It's short form for odometer. ODOMETER. Okay, that actually talks about the mileage. How many kilometers or miles? It depends on where the car was made. If it was made in European setting, okay, is going to come in kilometers. If it was made in US and Canada settings, okay, or even Japanese, it's going to come in miles. Now I want you to understand that it's going to come in miles. Now, of course, you know that in ordinary units, when you are converting, miles go miles are farther than kilometers. Okay, so have this at the back of your mind. So straight to the point. When you the first thing you look at, or there are many other things that could come first, but I chose to bring this one first, is the mileage of that particular car. How long how has this car driven? How many kilometers has it covered? How do you get this information? Go to the dashboard, okay? Many cars have a knob for ODO. It's written either on the steering wheel or you find it somewhere on the dashboard. You find the pin knob on the dashboard. Keep punching that button until a small screen on the dashboard appears and says ODO. You are going to find how many thousand kilometers that car has run in its entire life. Now, make no mistakes about this, okay? That is not all that you need to look out for. I'm going to share, it's a whole lot. I'm going to share a whole lot of it. Now, a car that, let me give you an example. A car that was used by a very rough guy who doesn't maintain his car over 20,000 kilometers is going to be far different from a car that was used by a very careful and prudent owner, okay, over, let's say, 50,000 kilometers. Remember, the first one was 20,000 kilometers, okay? So I'm trying to say this to let you know that it's not only ODO that is important. There are other things that I'm going to share with us that are very important, but ODO, to a large extent, just like age, just like you can look at somebody and know, guess the person's age, and age has a long way to go because of that experience that somebody goes through. The same thing with vehicles too. The ODO or the mileage of that car has a part to play in the life of that car. So most times when you find vehicles that have run several thousands of miles, let's say 300,000 miles or kilometers, most times, given the same set of conditions, is most times you find out that those cars that have run so much, okay, would have had more damage, or would have had opportunity for more damage, or would have been exposed to more damage. Okay, make no mistakes about it. ODO is a crime, and it's a crime. I insist that it's a crime. ODO can be adjusted. There are people that do that, but it's actually a crime. Okay, there are people that do that, roll back the odometer reading so that you would think that the vehicle was not used for long distance and all that throughout its lifetime with the previous owners. But that's why we are bringing out other strategies for you to be able to really inspect the car. Okay, so that's about ODO. I said it's in the dashboard. It's written in the dashboard, instrument cluster. That's where you find it. Now, I had earlier shared this on YouTube. Okay, what I'm about talking about now, what I want to talk about now is the results from the tailpipe, the exhaust results. Make no mistakes about it. Even in humans, when you go to clinic to do tests, to run tests, they're going to ask you for feces. They're going to ask you for urine, to be able to know what your body is processing and how well your body is processing waste, to be able to find out some critical elements. The same thing happens with automobiles. Most times you get the functionality and how good an engine is from the exhaust, the result of the exhaust. Please, if you are watching this video right now, I'd like you to share it. Please share it. Thank you very much. Thank you. So, talking about exhaust tests here, it's simple. Like I said in my YouTube page, all you need to do is to dip the finger deep into the tailpipe, usually at the back of the vehicle. You know what the exhaust is, right? Everybody should know that, of course. So dip your finger into it and get your finger out and see what it should be, or what is embedded in the exhaust, what deposit you have on the exhaust in the tailpipe. Let me give you what it should be. A fine running vehicle that has run fine with very good engine that was maintained properly over time, what you find, the deposit you find in the exhaust pipe is either a very hard brownish deposit, or something, it's going to look like the color of dust. What does dust look like? If you scrape it eventually, and very dry. The exhaust should be very dry for a vehicle that runs and has run throughout its life very well. Now I'm going to put a warning out. If you ever go to test this on a vehicle, if you have a vehicle at home, you can try this out. If you ever go to test a vehicle and checking the tailpipe is very clean, you cannot find any deposit at all, and it's pure iron, the way iron should be clean as aluminum. Know that the car owners or the car dealers already know this trick, and they have already gone ahead to wash the exhaust pipe. It shouldn't be entirely clean. There's a no, 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 no. If you see that, it shouldn't be entirely clean. Okay, I hope I'm not feeling sleepy. Anyway, so dip your hands in the tailpipe. Now there are two types of deposits you can get in the tailpipe. Make no mistakes about it. There are two types of deposits you can get from the tailpipe. The first one is carbon. You can get high carbon from the tailpipe. What does carbon signify? It signifies that that engine is running rich, that is, it's burning excessive fuel. And how do you determine the difference between carbon and oil? The second thing, sorry to say, the second thing that you can get, the second deposit you can get from a tailpipe is engine oil, burning engine oil. Okay, so let's go to the first again. You can get high carbon emission. Okay, in which case the car has over time had unburned fuel running through the exhaust and out, and so has deposited unburned carbon or unburned carbon, yes, into the exhaust, into the tailpipe. So how do you know the difference between oil and unburned carbon? It's simple. I've developed a new means. It's simple. Just wash the finger that you dipped in clean water. Okay, easily deposit of carbon, ordinary carbon, easily will wash off using ordinary water without detergent. But oil deposits will not wash up easily. It's going to be sticky. Once it's sticky, you know that it's oil. Let me now give you a clear cut difference between the two. What the two means, actually, each of them mean. Like I said earlier, whenever you find what did I call it again? High carbon emission in the exhaust. Whenever you find carbon deposits in the exhaust, what it's telling you is that that car has burnt too much fuel, or is burning too much fuel. Now, this is a clear sign that there's either a fault with the engine, or the air cleaner is bad, or one or two sensors are not functioning well. Usually a minor fault, okay? Or the absence of catalyst or something like that related to that, okay? Now, let's flip over to oil deposits. Whenever you find oil deposits in your exhaust stream, whenever you find that, know that oil is escaping from the piston rings, usually, of that engine. That's a very bad news. For such vehicle, I think you should just abandon it. Don't buy, except it's way too cheap that you can afford to change the engine. But take my word, the tailpipe examination is very important. In short, that's where I always get whether a car is going to be good or not. That's where I always get it. I just go to the tailpipe and dip my fingers and look at it, wash it in water. If that car is going to run fine, I'm going to know from there. If it's going to run badly, I'm going to know from there also. That is number two. I've given 2 points, okay, on how to inspect a vehicle like a pro. Welcome, sir. Welcome. I see you. Now, the third one, year of manufacture. For you to inspect the car, you need to be able to determine what year that car was manufactured in. Of course, you should be able to weigh that side by side your desire. What year of manufacture of car do you want to drive? Okay, a lot of people, I've seen mechanics a lot of times go to the seat belt, and then they want to check the seat belt. What you find on the seat belt typically is the year of manufacture of that seat belt, because a safety device, virtually all safety devices, have a lifespan. So that's why that seat belt has its own date of manufacture. So most times, because the seat belts are manufactured around the same period, where when the car is manufactured, there is always a coincidence, but it doesn't mean it's the year of manufacture. Now, the first place to get year of manufacture is on the door stickers. You find sticker usually on the driver's side door, or on there's something they call B pillar. Okay, in case you didn't know this anyway, let me expose it. Every car has pillars. Now, let me tell you what a pillar is. If you sit in the driver chair and you're driving, there's this pillar between the windscreen and the side glass. That start counting from there. That is a pillar. The next one that's going to be behind just where your seatbelt is at the driver chair. That second one is called B pillar. The third one, if there's any, sealer, and so on and so forth. Keep going. So that's how to know the pillars. That's how they are labeled in every automobile. It's a standard. So if you check the B pillar by this, that is the one by the seatbelt, standing outside the vehicle and looking straight at the pillar, you usually will find a sticker that gives you information about the vehicle. That's where you find the year of manufacture usually. I'm going to show you another way of knowing, or two other ways of knowing. Okay, that's where you find the year of manufacture of that vehicle. Now, you should be able to match this with the year of manufacture of car that you want to drive. A more recent car is better, but remember that if you are doing economics, remember that the more recent a car is, the fewer scrap parts you'll be able to buy. Okay, the fewer the less the parts will be less abundant in the market, and so because of that, the price for the parts will be higher. Okay, so the more recent your car is, the more expensive it will be to maintain on a general scale. You know that all cars, I usually say that all cars have, they are all cars, so they have comparable rates or comparable costs, for cost implication for their maintenance. That's what I say. So cars of the same generation, 2003 to 2006, that generation, if you look at all the cars around them, okay, they usually have almost the same maintenance cost. So if you're buying a car for 2020, people make pride in Toyota and say, my Toyota is cheap to maintain. There are a lot of factors, my brother and my sister. There are a lot of factors that lead to the maintenance cost. There are a lot of factors, like the availability of parts, how available are the parts, how recent the car is, like I just mentioned, the demand for those parts. For example, let me give you an example. There's this Toyota Corolla that everybody, in short, is in every family, 2003 to 2006 series of Toyota Corolla. You know how expensive the parts of that car has become, owing to the high demand for the parts and the vehicle. Anyway, that's aside. That's talk for another day. We'll talk about it another day. Now, talking about year of manufacture, let me come back to where I started. You could know that when you look at that B pillar, you could see the year of manufacture. Choose if that's the car you actually want to drive. And I don't expect anybody to buy a car without doing reviews. At the end of this video, at the end of this live session, I'm going to give out a website that I trust and I have used over time to review cars. Just sample cars, put in the information, what year of manufacture, what manufacturer, and all that. I'm going to give out this site, okay, to help you. It will help you to know from people's experience how the car has been. Every car that I had ever used, I checked on that site and it didn't fail me, because the experience of many thousands of people should be able to relate to the experience you're going to have, because that car has had history over time. Okay, so that's why I check it. So when you check it out, you know the kind of car you want to drive before you go searching for it, or in case you find one, no wala. But I'm going to give this. I think I should give it now and give it. Okay, I'm going to give you the website to be able to do that. Okay, and it helps me. Now, the second way to know a car's year of manufacture is actually the VIN. A car's VIN gives a lot of information if you're a professional. It tells you down to the country of manufacture, what plant manufactured it, what product is it. Everything is embedded in that VIN. The VIN is not just a set of numbers. No, it is a code. If you're a professional, you will know this. The VIN is a code. Now, this is how I'm going to tell you. If you look at the VIN, there are two places you can find the VIN. That is what they call in Nigeria chassis number or chassis number. Okay, that's the same. It's the same thing. They're actually 17 digits. VIN is actually 17 digits. Now, to know your year of manufacture of any car, once you see the VIN, okay, I skipped it. It's either on the B pillar, you can find it there where the vehicle information is, or you can also find it just overlooking the windscreen, the windshield from the driver part, as if you are looking at the steering, but the right down part of the windscreen. So you usually find it there, very close to the bonnet. Yes, the windscreen just close to the bonnet. You find the VIN there. Now this is how to decode the year of manufacture from the VIN. Basically, the year of manufacture is indicated in the 10th digit. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. The 10th digit of that VIN is usually the year of manufacture. So if you see any vehicles VIN, count up to the 10th digit. Okay. So if you have one, that car is either manufactured in 1991 or 2001. If you have two on that 10th digit, it's going to be 2002 or 1992, of course. If you have if you have three, 2003, 4, 2004, 5, and so on. So as some people will ask me now, what about 2010? How is it signified on any car? Now, from 2010, the code now changes. It's not 0. Please, from 2010, the code is going to be A. It now starts alphabetically. It's going to be A. Okay, up to, let's say, 2010 A, 2011 B, 2012 C, like that, and so on and so forth, until you get to something like 2017. It's going to be H. But note that there are some alphabets that were omitted. I was omitted for certain reasons, so you will not mistake it as 1. Or you can look it up on the internet. Okay, I was omitted, O was omitted, U was omitted, Y was omitted, Z was omitted, so that you will not think that it is 2. So you can look at it. For example, if you find T on the 10th digit, that car was manufactured in 2020, or is it 2026? If you count it down, omitting what I just said, you can Google it. If you like, you can Google it. Okay, so that's how one of the things you check out when inspecting a used car. Okay, some people lie about the year of manufacture a lot. Yeah, you want to buy a car, somebody tells you, they know that the car is in the same series. I don't know if you have ever heard something like this car is 0506, 05/06, nothing like that, my brother. They said that the car is 2005 or 2006. Okay, so that car is 2005, or there's nothing like 05 or 06. So some would lie and say it's a 2007 vehicle, whereas that car is a 2002 vehicle, because they're in the same series, they have the same look. Make no mistakes about it. For every new line of manufacture, there are things that were added. So they didn't just manufacture the same thing over 5 years. No, they added some effigy and all that, some appliances, some devices for you to use, okay, in the new models. So that's one of the things to check. Okay, now the third thing now, many people are desirous, and it's very good for you to buy a car that had not had a major engine fault before. Okay, so if you want to buy a car that has not had a major engine fault, how do you know if the engine was touched? Like our Nigerian marketers will say, touched engine and untouched engine and all that. So how do you know? How do you get to know that an engine is touched or untouched? I'm going to give you the secret. It's hardly faked. Okay, it's hardly faked. When you open the hood, open the engine room, usually there are two types of cars: cars that use belts and cars that use chain. Now, for cars that use belts, the covering case of the timing belt is usually plastic for easy access to the belts. They know that these belts, number one, they know that these belts usually fail over time, or we need change in short whiles. Okay, if you practice good repair or good maintenance culture, the belts should be changed. So they don't make it difficult to remove. They just put plastic over the belts, guarding the crankshaft and the camshafts. Okay, doing the timing job and all that. But for cars that use chain, the chain has to be soaked in oil because that chain is metallic and is a working part. Okay, it has to be soaked in oil. So because of this, the same oil that the engine uses, the same oil pressure is extended to it. So they don't want leakage. It's extended to the chain. That's what I mean. So because they don't want leakage, the manufacturers do not want leakage. What they do is the casing by the side of the engine, the side cover of the engine using chain is usually aluminum or metallic. Okay, to be able to contain the oil pressure and all that. So now, how do you know an engine that was touched and the one that was not touched? You see the side, the line running, the side line uh, running by the side cover. There's usually gum for cars that use chain. There's usually silicone that was used to to seal that part, the side cover. An engine that is touched or that has been loosened, make no mistakes, if the top gasket, head gasket had burned before, they have to remove the chain to be able to remove the top cylinder. Don't make no mistakes about it. If an engine needs to be ringed, they have to remove the chain, which means they have to remove the side cover, the seal on the side cover to take off the top cylinder. The same thing with the bottom plate. They have to remove it also to do work. If metals had issues, once there's a major issue on any engine, that's where the major operation goes there. So how do you know? You look critically close to that line where the side cover comes to the engine block. Manufacturers silicone gum is usually as old as the engine would be, one, because some people can go and buy it and use it. If it's fresher than the engine, lies. Okay, now the kind of silicone gum that is available for mechanics around our region. Okay, the kind of silicone gum that is available for them is tender, always tender. Even if you have driven it for 10 years, it's always tender. But manufacturers silicone gum is usually hard. It's hardened, and you see that is as old as the engine will be. So that's how to know an engine that was touched or untouched. One of the ways to know. Then if you can go down to the bottom plate, this because it's a car you want to pay for, you should be willing to do all these checks. That's how to check it like a pro that I'm talking about. So if you go down to the bottom plate, the sump, okay, if you don't find that manufacturer's gum there, and you find our type of gum and it's started, it's not arranged, okay, you know that engine has been touched. You should either ask questions. If they're going to lie to you, run away from that car, because there'll be excuse me, there'll be so many other lies that they didn't tell you. So that's how to know an engine that is touched or untouched. Then what about car sounds? The sound of a car will tell you how much that car has been used, or how well, as we may put it, that vehicle has been used. I thank you, Benson, Mr. Benson. Yeah, thank you too. Thank you. I see you. I cite you. Thank you for listening. Thank you for tuning in. Please do well to share. Do well to share this. It's very important. It's vital information. I mean, it took me heart, very big heart, to be able to release this. Okay, because car dealers will be after me. I mean, so thank you very much, Mr. Benson. Thank you. Thank you. So the sound of an engine. Look, a car that is very good, you will know from the sound of the engine. How do I mean? An engine should have even sound, and shouldn't be sounding like generator. Do you understand what that means? It shouldn't be sounding like generator. An engine should have even sound, and without sound of metal to metal. Even when you throttle it up to 2000 rpm, it should maintain that smoothness. That's the word I was looking for. You should maintain smoothness. So if you ever go to inspect a car and you throttle it a little bit and you're hearing crack, 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 or even some blah, 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 please run or ask questions. Okay? ask questions, that car may not be good. So from the sound of engine, not only the engine, the suspension. Don't ever buy a car that you have not driven, not only on main roads, on smooth roads. Drive it. Do a drive test on two types of roads. On smooth roads to know how the acceleration will be, and do another test on, look for a rough road, just enter and come out. If that car has suspension issues, that road will expose it. A car might be quiet throughout to drive on smooth road, but when you get to very rough roads, the car will show itself. So don't be in a rush. You can drive it around those rough roads, okay? Just to test, listen to the sound. Then this is this area that usually catches people. You found the car, you love the car, okay? Thank you, Honor Henry. Thank you very much. Thank you for joining us. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So you find a car that you love everything about it. The engine is fantastic. Everything is nice. But you don't know that within that car, underneath, there is very bad corrosion. Please, if you're watching live with us, please do well to share it. A lot of people will need to come into this. They are going to like this. They are going to love this. Please do well to share with us. Please share. Please share. Just click on the share button, click on the like button, share it to whatever groups you can, share it to whatever page you can share it so that people will benefit. This is information that people don't give out anyhow. Please do well. Thank you, my people. So yeah, I was talking about corrosion. You find a car that is fantastic, it's looking fantastic, but underneath you don't know that that car is a time bomb. It's going to just break into pieces in just a short while. Please, whenever you go to buy a car, especially a car that is coming from some parts of America, I cannot name the states, and Canada, okay, they usually have rust issues. That's the truth. They usually have rust issues. Cars that have stayed in moist grounds, moist area, usually have issues with rust, corrosion. A car, if I buy a new Peugeot 504, if I had bought a new Peugeot 504 or two new Peugeot 504s in let's say in 1980, I sent one to Jos and sent one to Port Harcourt. Do you know that the one in Port Harcourt, by this year that we are in, the one in Port Harcourt would have more rust than the one in Jos? Why? Port Harcourt is a more wet ground. So the same thing, cars that come into this country, if it's going to be a used car, my brother, what you need to go and inspect, check out for rust, is very important. Now, you don't need to look at the entire car to know if the car is rusted or not. I'm going to give you the key now. I'm here to give keys after all. Now, so let car dealers get angry. I'm going to give keys. So where to check? From experience, I have noticed that the part of cars that get too affected by rust is just before the rear tires, underneath, just before the rear, not after, usually at the back, before the rear tires. That's where you should concentrate. Bend down. If you must pay your money to get any car, bend down, look underneath where I have just said, and the fender, the rear fender, the front part of the rear fender. You know what fender is? That place that contains the back tire, the tire, that hole, that is not enclosement, that hole, okay, that cavity that contains the rear tire. That's where you find, look around those areas. If the car is rusted, that is where you find the rust more. So don't buy a car that is over rusted, because it will develop some other issues. You cannot finish dealing with the alignment issues. You cannot finish dealing with the poor movement issues, the noise that you keep hearing over time and over time and over time. You can't keep dealing with that, man. You need a better deal, okay? So that's for rust. Check for rust, all right? Okay, and then you would have asked me that, what about tire? What about tires? For tires, I don't know. It's optional. You can buy a car and change the tire today. I don't know. It depends on your preference, but I don't really care about tires, except I'm going to change them. It's not what really counts. It's not in the major if you segment car into major and minor in case you want to buy, it does not really count like that. It doesn't have weight like that. Okay, so the next thing to look at, number 7. I'm at number 7 now. Number 7 is wiring. What do I mean by wiring? A car that was properly taken care of, that hadn't had plenty faults. Let me give you a trick. Don't tell somebody I told you. The car that hasn't had plenty faults, the wiring will be clean with the harnesses well plugged and not broken. I repeat, a car that hasn't had many problems and didn't have need for the engine to be coming down and getting back in and didn't have plenty issues, the electrical harnesses in the engine room will be lined up with all the rubber tubings that they used to guard it. Everything will be intact. Okay, now this is what to look out for if you are going to inspect the car. There, for consideration, there are clips. There are actually clips and hooks where this wiring, the wiring of your car stands at various points as they progress in the engine room. If you find that these things are broken and the wires are just dangling, know that that car has had issues. It has had issues over time that made them to remove and put the wire, remove and put the wire. Beware. Beware. Now you're going to be asking me, all these faults, how do I know? It's just an eye opener. Seriously, it's just an eye opener. You look at the wiring, see if they had split wires and done bad jobs, like cut wires where they shouldn't cut. Look at the wire to sensors. Are there sensors that are without wires? That car will certainly disturb you if you have sensors that have been unplugged for various reasons. And here, not only wire. I remember what I keep seeing. You see any blocked pipe, like you see a pipe running and it's running to nowhere, and they have blocked it. And they have blocked it. That pipe. You see a pipe, and a pipe carrying air or should carry coolant or water, and they have blocked it with plug. Or what do they usually use? They use foam. All those things. My brother, you need to ask questions because that car might have had issues also. So I just wanted to mention that. So number 8, transmission. When I say transmission, I mean the gearbox. Usually the cars are very available now. The cars that we are dealing with now, most of them are automatic transmission, and it's usually difficult to probe the functionality of automatic transmission if you are not a professional. But let me see if I'll be able to expose 1 or 2 secrets. For a manual, it's easy. If you release the clutch on a manual, it does not run smoothly. Okay, it has to vibrate before it moves. There's a problem with the manual gear. If there's noise in the gear system on the manual, hearing whining noise, there's a problem with manual. But what about automatic? Now, the first way to determine if an automatic gearbox is good is the shift, the mode of shift into the first gear. So you get into the car, you start it, and you engage drive or even reverse. Okay, watch how smooth the car engages. Like, do you just notice that there's a perfect car should have just a small pull on you, even while you're stepping, you stepped on the brake pedal. You should just have a small pull on you. Okay, if you ever find a car that shifted erratically, that gearbox, just give it time, it's going to damage because all is not well with it. Okay, so even at reverse and gear, the car dealer will tell you that, my friend, that it's engine sitting. I've driven cars with bad engine sitting. It didn't hit that way. Okay, it's just going to be mild. That's the first thing to know. Then along the road, it depends on the kind of gear system. There are different gears. I wish I can expose all. There's a type of gear that the one that Murano uses. Usually Nissan uses a gear type they call CVT, continuous varying transmission, that uses a belt drive. So the way it works is that there's a big pulley and there are 2 pulleys actually. Okay, so I cannot go into very big details because of time. The first pulley and the second pulley keep varying. Okay, keep varying their diameter. Okay, they are compressible pulleys. They keep varying their diameter according to the gear that the car wants to get in. So as you're throttling the car gradually, for the car to increase speed, before it was like this: the driving gear, and this is the driving pulley in the gearbox. So usually, as this one is expanding, this one is contracting, the gear ratio is increasing. Okay, so with that, if you drive a Murano, for example, that the gearbox is good, usually you will not feel that the gear is changing. You just notice that the RPM keeps remaining constant as you are firing, but the car is racing. Okay, but usually it's because of that kind of sweetness too. Those kind of cars have issues. The gearbox, they have not come to make it so perfect. So because of the complication in the transmission, chain type, the chain gets weak and all that. That's why Morano and all the rest usually have gear issues. Talk for another day. So, but for a regular transmission, when that car is moving from gear 2, because when the gauge is on gear 1, as you take off, okay, make sure you don't throttle it. That's way to check the gearbox. Make sure you throttle it down to the floor and drive on. Mild throttling. A good car should be able to, by all means, change all its gears, and I mean all its gears, from gear 2, because you're already on 1, from transmission into 2 to 5, 6, 7, if you have those gears in that car. Should be able to transmit seamlessly between, watch the engine RPM as you move, between 2000 RPM and 3000 RPM, or at most 3100 RPM. That is, I'm referring to the engine speed now. If a vehicle, if you notice that a vehicle goes beyond 3000 RPM, far beyond, let's say it has even entered 4000 RPM before a new gear is introduced, run away. The transmission is bad. It's bad, or it's going to fail very soon. So watch this when you drive a car. Number 2, when the car is transmitting from one gear to another, it's shifting. Okay, there's a difference between shifting and downshifting. Downshifting is when you eventually when you brake and the gears need to return to gear 1. That's downshifting. Okay, or it also happens when you're climbing hill and the car senses that it's not able to climb that hill. It will drop the gear. You will notice that the RPM will get higher again for you to be able to gain power to climb that hill. All right, so those are two different things here. So, but what I mean is, between successive gears, the car should not jerk. In as much as it is not, you cannot say you will not feel it, but just a little shift, you should be able to notice it. Okay, but if a car hits, boom, and you just feel that shock or that shake, the transmission is going to have issues over time. So you should ask questions right there. Again, I'm going to drop that before you buy a car. Also, you should inspect the bottom plate of the transmission of the gearbox. If you find gum around it, that transmission has given issues with time. I used to tell people history of car when I go to inspect cars. So that's about transmission. I'm going to give another hint on transmission. When you go to inspect a car, check the transmission oil. A good transmission fluid should be pinkish, not too pinkish anyway, pinkish red. So if you find transmission fluid, if you put the dipstick and bring it out, you find transmission fluid like smelling like burnt stuff and it's black, or if it's black, the transmission has fiber issues that are burnt into the transmission oil. If it's pink, like very pinkish white, know that water has entered into the transmission, it won't last. I'm just giving the hint. Okay, so that's about transmission. Also, listen out for the noise in transmission when the car is changing from one gear to another. Listen out for the noise. Okay, so that's about transmission. Another issue I want to hit, number 9. The 9th issue is inspect the rug carpet underneath the car. I'm saying this because it tells how far the car has been used. I'm not lying to you. A car that was used carefully by a careful owner, okay, will have usually a clean rug carpet, usually, and it's where to catch it is not on the passenger side. Go to the driver's side, remove the rubber carpet, and find out. It will amaze you that whatever you find there will tell you what that car will be. I just there's something I didn't want to share, but I'm going to share. There are a lot too, but with all this, I believe that you should be able to know how to inspect the car. Okay. I just remembered something. Do you know that car has odor? Yes, like car has a fragrance or smell. I'm not having English too much. Cars fragrance. If you finish test driving a car and the car is smelling like, it's smelling more like how would I put it now? Like oil, fried oil. That car is problematic. Not two ways about. There are many ways I used to know now. Okay, a car should smell fresh even after driving long distance. It should smell fresh. I'm not talking about air freshener here. Stand outside the car, both in and out of the car. I mean, smell it. It should smell fresh. It shouldn't be smelling roasted oil. The car that is smelling roasted oil has issues. Oil is leaking from somewhere or the other, and you should be able to find out as a buyer too. Okay, then let me give you another thing. Number 10 or number 11 now. I'll talk about the color of the coolant in the radiator or the color of water. People use water. Only very few cars were manufactured using water for the cooling system. Actually, it's because of bad maintenance or because of um, bad economy. Like people don't want to spend money and all that. That they use water instead of coolant. Now, let me drop this as an advantage. When you use coolant instead of water, you notice that your cooling system works better. I know that coolant is antifreeze and all that, but that's not what we're talking about now. Coolant has in it anti-rust. So if you're fond of using water, your your engine block and all that, especially if you're using iron engine block, it will keep rusting into the water over time to clog your radiator, and it's not good for your cooling system. So ask that your water be flushed and then you use coolant. I mean, it helps you. It helps you really. Another advantage of using coolant over water is that do you know that when you use coolant, if there's a leakage in your cooling system, the color of that coolant will surface wherever that leakage is. Have you thought of it? So it's easy to diagnose, easy to detect. So why not start using coolant? Okay, so back to what I was saying. If you ever inspect the car and you open the radiator, don't open it when it's hot, please. When you're finished driving, look at what you check, the engine oil and all that before you move. Now, if you go to inspect the car and the radiator is already brown, like over brown, you know this kabu kabu brown, idea, that car would have had overheating issues in one time at one time or the other. I just wanted to add that anyway. The color of the coolant or water in the radiator will tell you what kind of car you're buying. Okay. So number 12, the natural strength of the engine. Don't forget to inspect the natural strength of the engine. It tells you how good the car you're buying is. Natural strength of the engine. How do you know this? A good engine with all the proper wiring and all the proper piping from factory, the way it is, with all the tune up, all the plugs in place, good plugs and all that, good air filter and all that. If you apply all the load, you engage the gear, okay, while it's on brake, while your brake is on standby, engage the gear, put on the headlamps for electrical load, turn on the air conditioner. A good car should stabilize itself. Yes, that's the way car was made. You know, this thing they call in generator. You know this thing they call governor. Okay, governor acts in such a way that when you put more load, the more load you add to a generating set, the more the engine will need to throttle itself to balance up the load. That same mechanism is in car in various ways. I don't want to go too technical. It's in cars in various ways. Idle air control valve does that. Is a device that does that in car. The electronic throttle plate is able to detect load or requirement for more energy and turns up. Okay, so if you're in trying to buy a car, make sure that you inspect the strength of that engine, natural strength of that engine. Okay, so you engage the gear, turn on the AC, all the accessories you can. Tell me one, if you go to buy a car Just test the radio and turn it off. You're not interested in that. Turn it on and play what you want to play. Check if the audio system is functional. Turn it off. It's going to distract you from seeing the real details that you needed to see. So bear that in mind. So now you need to put the car in gear, watch. The next thing you need to look out for when you do that, see if the engine speed, the RPM, is going to shoot up. Let me tell you, let me just add this. Okay, just keep adding plenty things. A good engine at idle should run somewhere between 0.5 and 1.0 engine speed. If it's more than 1.0, not good. If it's less than 0.5, not good. So when you engage the car, a good engine should still maintain that engine speed by itself, all by itself. I'm telling you, you should still maintain that engine speed all by itself between 0.5 and 1.0. It just remains there. If you remove the load, it still remains around. It might fluctuate a little just to balance up the load, but it remains along that region. You understand? So you check for the natural ability. Another way to know natural ability of the engine, natural strength, is when you try to take off. With what force does that car take off? It tells you. If that car is dragging, you know that it has lost its natural strength. So that's about natural strength of the engine. Okay, then the 13th one is just throttle response, which I just mentioned. How fast does that car take off when you want to take off? The throttle response. Okay, if you throttle a car, the response of the engine should just be, throttle it fast. The response of the engine should just be almost as you throttle it. It should just give you feedback immediately, almost as you throttle it. If there's a delay, there's a problem somewhere. Okay, then there's this secret I want to release. Please tell car dealers not to be angry. If you want to know how, they might lie to you that the car they are selling to you